November 14, 1942, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. Dawn breaks over the red dirt runway of Henderson Field with a heavy, humid, and weary atmosphere. There are no bird songs, only the loud startup of Avenger and Dauntless engines. This is the only spot on the Green Island untouched by Japanese bombardment. Lieutenant Joe Smith, a torpedo bomber pilot, checks his TBF Avenger. His face is etched with sleeplessness and the cold light of early morning. Beneath the plane's wings, the heavy Mark 13 torpedo lies dormant, a powerful weapon requiring reckless courage to deploy effectively. Everyone on the base knows a large Tokyo Express convoy is approaching, carrying reinforcements and supplies. If this convoy lands successfully, Guadalcanal will fall. The pale yellow light filters through the low clouds, promising a devastating day. The tension is so thick, you can taste the fuel and mud in the air. Inside the makeshift command tent, the map is hastily drawn with charcoal, tension suffocating the space. Joe Smith presents his proposal. Torpedo bombers usually release their weapons at about 150 feet and 800 yards from the target, a distance where Japanese anti-aircraft fire can easily turn them to ash. Smith wants to drop to 50 feet, an almost suicidal altitude. "We fly below their effective range, right over the waves," he explains, his voice deep and resolute. "Our torpedoes won't be deflected by high seas." The air group commander, an old, skeptical man, pounds the table. "That's suicide, Smith. If you catch a single rifle round, you'll explode. The mission is strictly forbidden, absolutely not to be attempted." But looking at the map and realizing the desperation of the situation, he falls silent, bowing his head, his eyes briefly showing a flicker of silent approval. The roar of the R-2600 engines tears through the humid air. Smith and his two crew members, the gunner and the radio operator, climb into the cramped cockpit. No words are exchanged, only eye contact. The line of Avengers begins its taxi, wheels briefly slipping on the wet ground. As the last aircraft takes off, the sunlight has risen higher, reflecting brightly off the water surface. The trio departs, heading north. Below their wings is an endless expanse of blue, where, in a few minutes, it will turn into a fierce battlefield. The radio is quiet, only a small crackle and the sound of their own breathing in the headsets. After an hour of flying low, overcoming the dense fog and violent sea winds, the radio operator suddenly shouts, his voice strained with tension. "Ahead, heavy shipping!" In the distance, a black line appears on the horizon. The massive Japanese transport convoy, escorted by destroyers and light cruisers. It looks like a wall of steel and cargo. The ships are laden with soldiers and supplies. The target is too big, too important, too close. Smith grips the yoke tighter, leveling the Avenger lower, only dozens of meters above the water. There is no time for orders. The forbidden plan will be executed. The Japanese commanders realize the danger, and the alarm sirens blare, tearing through the silence. Immediately, a flurry of 25mm and 40mm anti-aircraft fire begins to erupt. The TBF Avenger speeds like a phantom, flying so low that sea spray splashes onto the cockpit glass. This is the most dangerous altitude, high enough to be affected by waves, low enough to evade Japanese radar and anti-aircraft guns. The escort pilot beside Smith visibly trembles, seeing the aircraft almost touch the water. From that angle, the Japanese warships look like looming metal mountains, barely visible through the salty mist. Smith sees only dark metal hulls and the deep blue water below. Hundreds of eyes are staring from the ships. No shots are fired immediately. They are too surprised by the low-altitude approach. The silence is the most terrifying thing.
Target 1, prepare to release. Smith's order is calm, but his breathing is sharp. The Avenger banks slightly, flying directly into the gap between two large transports. Commander on the Japanese side realizes the threat. Immediately, a burst of 25mm and 40mm anti-aircraft fire begins to spew flames. Joe Smith pushes the stick forward, maintaining the 50-foot altitude. He sees bright red tracer rounds flying just over the plane's wings. The aircraft rattles violently. The torpedo is released, sinking deep into the water. He executes a sharp turn, dodging the geyser of water thrown up by a nearby shell explosion.
Immediately after, the first explosion echoes. A towering column of black smoke and seawater erupts from the side of a large transport. The torpedo hit its mark perfectly. Smith does not look back. He is already on to the next target. The intense thrill mixes with utter fear. Within the next 5 minutes, he and his squadron release 3 more torpedoes. Each time, they skim the waves at an almost unbelievable altitude. Anti-aircraft fire is now continuous and fierce. The environment is filled with smoke, debris, and the screeching metal of damaged ships. His tail gunner returns fire, offering a meager suppressive effort. Another transport is hit by a torpedo, its hull ripped open, hundreds of Japanese soldiers thrown into the sea. Seen from 50 feet, the tragedy is starkly clear. Small figures sinking in the water. There is no room for mercy. Smith focuses only on speed and altitude. Another Avenger in his squadron is hit. He watches the plane wobble, its right wing smoking, and crash directly into the sea. A large plume of water erupts again. Joe Smith knows they cannot stop. This forbidden plan has become the only order. Only by continuing the attack can they avenge their comrade and save Guadalcanal. In just about 15 minutes, the battle is over. The Japanese anti-aircraft fire fades. Joe Smith looks back. He cannot believe what he sees. 4 large transports are burning fiercely. 2 are already half submerged, and 2 others are out of control, creating a massive smoke screen over the sea. He counted at least 8 targets hit or heavily damaged. Fuel is low, ammunition is spent, and the Avenger is peppered with machine gun holes, but they are still flying. The emotion is a mix of emptiness and stunned victory. No more gunfire, only the tired drone of the engines and the screeching sound of the sinking ships. The Avenger flies back to Henderson Field in the late afternoon sun. As they land, there are no loud cheers, only astonished silence. Everyone saw the massive column of smoke from a distance. When Smith climbs out of the cockpit, he merely nods at the air group commander. The commander, instead of reprimanding him, simply extends his hand and shakes Smith's hand vigorously. No words needed. The 50-foot suicide run was executed, and it achieved its goal. That night, the soldiers on Guadalcanal slept a little sounder. They knew the Japanese soldiers on that convoy would never set foot on the island. The war continued, but the desperate tactic of one pilot bought precious time. These were ordinary soldiers achieving extraordinary history.